When my wife passed away, my son told me, "You can't bring Mom back, and my wife's birthday comes only once a year." Those words struck me deeply. The next day, he came with a request, as if nothing had been said. I saw it as my chance to respond to the hurt he caused, to both me and his late mother. And I took that chance. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you are listening from. At 8:30 a.m., my hands trembled as I dialed Kyle's number, adjusting my black tie for the third time. Margaret's empty coffee cup sat on the counter, her lipstick faintly marking the rim. The kitchen felt lifeless without her morning humming. After 4 rings, Kyle's tired voice answered. "Yeah, son, it's Dad," I said, straightening my shoulders. The funeral starts at 11:30. Loud music echoed through the phone, followed by laughter. I heard Megan's voice shouting about decorations. Kyle cleared his throat. "Dad, I told you yesterday. Megan's birthday party is tonight. We've been planning this for months." The words felt like cold water. I gripped the phone tighter. "Your mother's funeral is today, Kyle. This only happens once. Look, Mom's not coming back, but Megan's birthday is just once a year. The caterers are here, the band is setting up. I respect that Mom raised me for 35 years, but I can't just leave Megan on her day. I hope you understand." The line went dead. The dial tone buzzed in my ear. I sat frozen for 3 minutes, staring at Margaret's reading glasses by the phone. The clock read 8:47 a.m. My wedding ring caught the sunlight coming through the windows she had cleaned just last week. On the counter lay the funeral program, Kyle listed as a pallbearer. I crossed out his name with deliberate strokes. At the cemetery, faces turned toward me. "Where's Kyle?" Margaret's sister Patricia kept asking. I repeated my prepared answer. Important commitments. The words felt bitter. 23 people came to honor my wife of 40 years. Our son was not among them. I stood alone beside the casket, surrounded by Margaret's garden club friends and old neighbors. The empty space where Kyle should have stood felt heavy. "She was so proud of him," Mrs. Henderson whispered, "always talking about his success." I nodded, holding back my voice. Margaret had always defended Kyle, even when he missed her chemo appointments. "He's just busy with his life," she had said. "Young couples need space." The pastor spoke about family and eternal love. I watched dirt fall onto the polished wood, each shovel burying not just Margaret, but also my faith in our son. On the drive home, I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The passenger seat, once hers, sat empty. She always insisted we use her small Honda instead of my truck, saying it was better for the environment. The radio played her favorite song. I turned it off. Our street looked the same. Neat lawns, painted mailboxes, reminders of the life we built. I pulled into the driveway and paused, gathering strength to face the silence inside. The front door key clicked in its familiar way. I hung my keys on the hook Margaret had installed. Such a small action felt enormous in the emptiness. No humming, no television, just the stillness of 40 years of shared memories. I loosened my tie and sank into the leather armchair Margaret always said clashed with her floral curtains. She wanted to redecorate, but I was too busy with the business. Now the curtains would remain. Our wedding photo smiled from the mantel. Margaret at 23, glowing in her grandmother's dress. We had married in Davenport, promising everything to each other. I kept that promise, maybe too well. Memories rushed back. Kyle's first steps in this living room, his small hands reaching for Margaret. Birthday parties with handmade decorations because store-bought was too expensive. Margaret working double shifts at the diner while I started the construction company. She never complained. Not during my 16-hour days, not when meals were little more than macaroni and cheese. "We're building Kyle's future," she would whisper after he fell asleep between us in bed, still too young for his own room. On her nightstand, I found her Bible, bookmarks tucked into Psalms. A handwritten note slipped out. "My dearest Alan, please don't let Kyle forget us. We gave him everything we had. I hope that was enough. All my love, M." My hands shook as I read her careful handwriting. In the closet, I discovered the special box she had kept. Inside were Kyle's report cards, from kindergarten through college. Every grade, every achievement, treasured. She had written little notes on each page. Words filled with pride. "Our brilliant boy." The graduation photos were the hardest to look at. Kyle in his cap and gown. His degree paid for with Margaret's long overtime hours and my weekend jobs. Together it had cost $200,000. His smile never reflected the sacrifices that built his success. I pulled out a calculator and began adding more. The down payment for his house, $350,000. His wedding to Megan, $75,000. His first car, $35,000, graduate. School he pushed for but never completed, $48,000. Countless. Emergency loans for vacations, shopping, and failed ventures. Margaret's coffee mug was still in the dishwasher. Her novel remained open on the nightstand, the bookmark waiting for eyes that would never return. Get well cards from friends covered the kitchen counter, people who had cared more in her last days than her own son. The numbers kept rising. Over 15 years, Kyle had taken $847,000 from us, nearly $1 million given out of love and hope. I thought about my father, a strict man who had given me nothing except the demand to stand on my own. Build your own character, he told me. Perhaps he had been right. As night fell, I didn't bother turning on the lights. A car pulled into the driveway, the engine idling. I didn't check. If Kyle wanted to talk, he knew where I was. Soon the car left. At 6 a.m., I sat at my desk, papers neatly spread. Kyle, education. Kyle, house. Kyle, wedding. My coffee cooled as I opened the calculator app and began reviewing what Margaret had been too kind to demand. Bank records appeared on the screen. 15 years of transfers. Every line carried the same name. Kyle. The quiet of the house was filled only by the rustle of papers. College tuition came first. 4 years, $52,000 each. I remembered signing those checks. Margaret took on extra shifts to cover our bills while Kyle enjoyed his student life. Then graduate school, another $48,000 wasted. He had dropped out and gone traveling in Europe. That trip alone cost $35,000. Just temporary, Dad, until I get established, he had said. The house nearly drained us. At 25, Kyle stood in our living room with Megan's ring on her finger. We found the perfect place, but we're short on the down payment, $350,000. I co-signed the mortgage. Covered the full down payment. Family helps family, he said, promising to repay once the business grew. What business? He had been working for me since graduation, drawing a salary he had not earned. Margaret's notebook slipped out from the files. Her handwriting documented every sacrifice. Anniversary dinner canceled, $5,000 needed for Kyle's car. Postponed doctor visit. Wedding costs higher than expected. Bought generic groceries, sent. Kyle money for Megan's birthday. Her final note cut deepest. We gave Kyle everything. I hope he remembers us kindly. The calculator's screen confirmed it. $847,000. My father had given me only $20 when I left home, forcing me to build from nothing. Kyle, meanwhile, treated our sacrifices as his inheritance in advance. Last Christmas, he even called my company a family business, as if he had built it himself. Megan smiled beside him, already counting profits I had earned with 40 years of work. I knew then this was no longer about grief. It was a problem that needed a solution. For years I had made excuses, even as Margaret whispered, "Maybe we're doing too much for him." Her photo on my desk seemed to watch as I closed the files. She had been right to worry. The phone rang. Kyle's name appeared. I let it ring 4 times before answering. "Hey, Dad, hope you're okay after yesterday," he said cheerfully, avoiding any mention of the funeral. "I'm managing," I replied, steady. Good. Listen, we need help with some costs." Megan's birthday party was amazing, but we went a little overboard. You know how it is. You only turn 32 once. We had a live band, dinner at that new steakhouse, and I got her a diamond bracelet. She deserves it. But now the bills are here. About $15,000, $15,000. I knew instantly, loan number 47 in 15 years. Yesterday, I buried my wife. Today, my son asked for money for a party. So can you wire it today? Megan's really stressed, and you know how she gets. I looked at Margaret's photo. Then at the financial records spread before me. No. Silence. What do you mean, no? Bank problem. I mean, no, Kyle. I won't give you more money. His cheerful tone cracked. Are you serious? After everything we've been through this week, everything we had been through, as though he had suffered Margaret's funeral, not celebrated at a party. You're 35 years old, Kyle. So? Parents help their kids. You can afford it. Megan's voice rose in the background. Tell him we need it. We already spent it. I said no. The words felt strange, the first time I had ever denied him. This is unbelievable, he snapped. Mom just died and you're being petty about money. She'd want you to help us. The manipulation was effortless, as though rehearsed. He had used this line many times and we had given in every time. But now, the truth was undeniable. Your mother wanted you at her funeral. Kyle's voice grew sharp. Fine. We'll manage on our own. Max out more cards, borrow from Megan's parents, whatever. But don't expect us to come around anymore if this is how you plan to be. The unspoken threat lingered. For 35 years, his visits had been a reward for money, and his absence a punishment for refusal. I understand, I said calmly. You what? I understand. Take care, Kyle. I ended the call before he could respond. The phone lay silent on my desk, no longer a tool of control. For the first time in decades, I had closed a conversation with my son on my own terms. I opened my laptop and pulled up Kyle's employee file. Tomorrow we would have a different kind of conversation, one held in the office where I was the employer, not the father who had blurred the lines. If Kyle wanted distance, I would meet him professionally. At 7:30 a.m., I entered Foster Construction's lobby, 2 hours before Kyle usually arrived. His photo hung on the management wall, smiling in a suit I had bought him. That morning I saw not promise, but entitlement. In my office, Kyle's personnel records covered the desk like evidence. 8 years of reports told a clear story: missed deadlines, contractor complaints, inflated expenses, projects delayed because of long lunches, and clients frustrated by his careless approach. I had excused it all, out of loyalty, out of Margaret's reminders that he was still learning. But the documents revealed a consistent pattern of negligence that would have ended another employee's career long ago. At 8:45, I asked Sarah Mitchell, the HR director, to join me. She would manage the process correctly. She looked unsurprised when I explained my decision. She had been tracking Kyle's issues for months, waiting for me to act. I'll prepare the termination papers right away, she said. Include security escort, I replied. Of course. Standard for management terminations. I practiced the words in the office mirror, steady and professional. No emotion, no explanations beyond policy. Kyle would walk in as my son the employee and leave as a terminated worker. At 9:30, Kyle arrived, 15 minutes late, laughing with the receptionist about recovering from Megan's party. His voice carried through the lobby while colleagues glanced uneasily at my closed door. He stopped for coffee, unaware of what was coming. Kyle. Come to my office immediately, I said through the intercom. My tone firm. Sure, Dad, just a minute, he replied casually. Now, Kyle. The silence that followed told me he understood. His footsteps grew slower as he approached. When he entered and saw Sarah with documents, his smile faded. What's with the formal setup? He asked, his usual tone slipping. I sat still, hands folded on the desk. Kyle, your employment with Foster Construction is terminated effective immediately. He laughed nervously. Very funny, Dad. What's this really about? I slid the termination papers across the desk. Review these and sign where required. His hands trembled as he picked them up. His eyes scanned the language and his face turned pale. You can't be serious. This is our family business. This decision is based on your performance and conduct, I said evenly. Your role has been eliminated as part of restructuring. This is about yesterday's call, isn't it? I'm sorry about the money thing. We can fix it. Security will escort you to gather your belongings, I replied. His expression shifted from disbelief to desperation. Mom wouldn't want this. You know she wouldn't. I pressed the security button. This is a business decision, not a personal one. Mike Thompson appeared at the door, professional but understanding. Kyle's face flushed as reality set in. Employees gathered in the hallway, watching the son of their former boss escorted out by security. Dad, please. Kyle's final plea came as he held his coffee mug and the desk photo of Megan. Think about what this means. For the first time, I met his eyes. "I have," I replied. Through my office window, I watched him load a small box of personal belongings into his car. His shoulders shook. Whether from anger or grief, I couldn't tell. When he turned back toward the building, I looked away. Moments later, Sarah returned with the paperwork. "All access codes have been changed. His computer access is terminated." I removed Kyle's picture from the management wall myself, placing it face down in a drawer. The empty space looked cleaner somehow. A soft knock at the door. "Mr. Foster, someone is here without an appointment." Designer heels struck sharply against the marble lobby floor. Megan Foster stormed past reception, hair slightly windblown, anger on her face. Behind her trailed Kyle, embarrassed and defeated, a shadow of the confident man who'd walked in just an hour earlier. "How dare you humiliate Kyle like this?" Megan's voice carried across my office. I remained seated, ignoring her dramatic entrance. Kyle stepped between us, visibly uncomfortable. "Megan, please let me handle this," she refused. "We have bills to pay, Alan, a lifestyle to maintain. This company belongs to Kyle, too." "This is a workplace," I said calmly. "You need to leave." Her face reddened. "We deserve severance, at least 6 months. Kyle has worked here for 8 years. You owe us." "Dad, please, let's talk about this privately." "No," Megan cut him off. "He needs to hear it. I know about wrongful termination laws." "Kyle was an at-will employee," I replied evenly. "No severance is required by law or contract." Her attacks grew sharper. "Margaret would be ashamed of you. You're bitter, angry, taking your grief out on us." Kyle's face drained of color. "Megan, stop!" My jaw tightened, but I stayed composed. Her anger was nothing more than manipulation. Kyle tried again. "Dad, I know I made mistakes with the funeral. I'm sorry. But ending my career won't bring Mom back. Think of our family, future grandchildren." His words lingered like smoke in the air. I looked at the man who shared my blood but none of my values. "What family?" Megan quickly shifted tactics. "We'll sue for our share of Margaret's estate. Kyle is entitled to half. We know about the life insurance. Margaret left everything to me." The truth cut through her threats. "That's impossible." "We'll see a lawyer." I pressed the security button as her shouting escalated. Within seconds, security filled the doorway. Employees gathered in the hall, drawn by the commotion. "I'm not leaving," Megan screamed. "This is theft. This is abuse." Her resistance was loud but useless. Security escorted her out, her voice echoing through the lobby. Kyle stood in silence, humiliated by the scene. When the noise faded, only he and I remained. He whispered, "I'm all the family you have left." The words were meant to break me, but they only brought clarity. I looked at him, the man who wore my son's face but no longer felt like my son. "No, you're just someone who used to be my son." Kyle's face crumbled. For a moment I saw the little boy he once was. Then it was gone, replaced by the entitled man before me. He left without another word. I turned to my staff, addressing their concern with calm professionalism. This was a personal matter. "Business will continue as usual." They nodded. Most had seen Kyle's decline for years. "Ensure Mrs. Foster is never allowed in this building again," I instructed security. Alone in my office, my hands trembled slightly. The hardest part was over. I looked at Margaret's photo on my desk. "I hope you understand." I opened my computer and searched for estate attorneys. It was time to move forward. By afternoon, I was meeting Robert Chen, our longtime lawyer and friend. Carrying Margaret's will, insurance papers, and company records, I entered his corner office overlooking downtown Davenport. Robert rose, concern in his eyes. "How are you holding up, Alan?" "I need to update my estate plan," I said firmly. He assumed it was routine. "Of course, adjusting beneficiaries after Margaret's passing." "No." I handed him the documents. "I'm removing Kyle completely." Robert's composure faltered. "Alan, I need to understand this." I explained Kyle's absence at the funeral and his excuse about Megan's birthday. With each detail, Robert's expression darkened. "I want a new will. The main beneficiary will be the Margaret Foster Memorial Foundation." Robert leaned forward. "I must ensure you're thinking clearly." I've never been more certain. I laid out my vision: scholarships for children, cancer research funding, causes Margaret cherished. Kyle and his descendants would be excluded explicitly. Robert slowly nodded, admiration replacing concern. Moving company assets into a trust would shield them from lawsuits, with me retaining control for life. The foundation would inherit everything after my death. He noted we'd need to change all insurance beneficiaries. I had already decided the house would be sold, proceeds donated, jewelry auctioned. Only Margaret's wedding ring would remain, buried with me one day. What about Kyle's childhood belongings? Robert asked gently. Donated. I'm removing him from my life completely. Robert pressed his duty, questioning my state of mind. My clear reasoning and detailed plan left no doubt. 2 legal witnesses observed as I signed the documents. Kyle was officially disinherited. I want him formally notified, I instructed. Further protections followed. Power of attorney revoked. Medical directives updated. Kyle removed from every decision. Tomorrow I would visit the banks. Every account, every policy, Kyle's name would be erased. Robert offered to help coordinate with financial institutions, and planning the foundation unexpectedly brought me peace. I nominated him as trustee, outlined the board structure, and set plans for the first scholarship recipients. It was a way to honor Margaret's memory through education, something she had always valued. Margaret would be proud of this foundation, Robert said as we finished. She had always believed in education and helping others. For the first time in days, I felt genuine satisfaction instead of cold determination. Robert understood this was not about revenge, but about justice. My transformation from grieving father to purposeful philanthropist was complete. We shook hands outside the law office. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Kyle, signs that he was beginning to realize the seriousness of his situation. I deleted the voicemails without listening and walked toward my car. A new phase awaited. The Davenport Country Club's grand lobby welcomed me with its familiar luxury. Mahogany panels, crystal chandeliers and portraits of founding members, symbols of old money and tradition. As treasurer, I'd walked these halls for 15 years. 12 board members gathered around the polished table, chatting over routine business before the official meeting began. The scent of leather furniture and fresh coffee filled the air as conversations touched on recent events. William Hayes, our board president, approached with sympathy. Alan, the memorial service was beautiful. Margaret would have been pleased. Thank you for the flowers, I replied. Patricia Morton, Margaret's sister and longtime member, joined us. I kept looking for Kyle during the service. Where was he? The question I had anticipated finally came. I paused, then chose honesty over diplomacy. Kyle decided not to attend his mother's funeral. The silence was immediate and heavy. Patricia's face went pale. What do you mean decided? I repeated Kyle's words about Megan's birthday party being more important. The disgust on the faces around me said everything about their values. Values Kyle had rejected. Nancy Hayes, William's wife, had overheard. Within minutes, she was making phone calls. By the end of the hour, the story had reached the Ladies' Bridge Club and soon spread across Davenport's social circle. I went home unaware of the storm I had set in motion. The consequences reached Megan first. The next morning, her yoga instructor asked her to leave mid-session with a cold explanation. We prefer members with family values. Kyle's lunch invitation at the country club was withdrawn, and their regular table at Romano's restaurant suddenly became unavailable. Megan's confusion turned to anger as the pattern grew. By Saturday, Kyle faced public humiliation. His golf partners made excuses and left him mid-round, and the pro shop manager suggested he might feel more comfortable elsewhere. He walked to his car alone, realizing everyone knew about the funeral. Megan, meanwhile, faced rejection at Bergdorf's boutique. Staff who once welcomed her warmly turned distant. Her credit application stalled, and the manager suggested she shop elsewhere. Kyle's career suffered the same fate. Job interviews were quietly canceled, business contacts stopped answering, and his networking lunch at the Chamber of Commerce ended awkwardly. Employers knew the story before he arrived. For Megan, the breaking point came at Elite Salon, when her appointment was canceled, and she overheard clients discussing her heartless husband. She left in tears. Even the local newspaper mentioned Kyle's absence from Margaret's service. Church members voiced open disapproval. and former friends avoided them in public. Kyle's attempts to explain failed. His claims that I exaggerated carried no weight. Davenport's tight-knit community had passed judgment. Megan eventually broke down. She confronted Kyle about their ruined reputation and demanded he fix it. When he admitted he could not, she threatened to leave if nothing changed. I heard of these consequences through others, feeling a calm sense that justice was unfolding naturally. Davenport's values, loyalty, respect for the dead, and basic decency, aligned with Margaret's memory. Kyle had betrayed them all, and the community responded. One morning, my phone rang during breakfast. The bank manager's voice was careful. "Mr. Foster, Kyle and Megan's mortgage payment is 30 days overdue. You are still guaranteeing the loan, correct?" I paused, then replied, "I'd like to schedule a meeting tomorrow to discuss changes to my guarantees." Financial pressure would finish what social rejection had begun. At 9:00 a.m. the next day, I entered First National Bank's marble lobby, lined with portraits of founders who built their fortunes on hard work and family values. David Harrison, the bank manager, greeted me in his office overlooking the Mississippi River. Barges moved steadily below, symbols of Davenport's prosperity for generations. David's unease was clear as he reviewed Kyle and Megan's files spread across his mahogany desk. Mortgage documents, loan agreements, and guarantee forms painted a picture of dependence that was about to collapse. "Alan, thank you for coming on such short notice," David began, his voice stiff. "Kyle's mortgage is now 60 days overdue. The balance is $18,400. I sat calmly, hands folded, waiting for David to speak. "I assume you'll continue the guaranteed payment, as you have for the past 3 months." His words lingered like smoke before a fire. "No," I replied. "I'm ending my guarantee immediately." The banker's face turned pale. "I don't understand. You've guaranteed this loan for 8 years. I slid across pre-drafted legal papers prepared by Robert Chen's office. Everything is in order. 30 days notice, exactly as required by law." David frantically called the bank's legal team while I quietly watched morning traffic crossing the bridge, one I had walked many times with Margaret. The lawyer's voice over the speakerphone confirmed his worst fear. "My withdrawal was fully legal. This means foreclosure proceedings must begin," David said weakly. "I understand. Please move quickly." Across town, Kyle endured his 10th job interview in 2 weeks. The interviewer's cold manner was no surprise. His rehearsed story about seeking new challenges fell flat, drowned out by the lingering gossip about the family downfall. "Thank you, Mr. Foster. We'll be in touch," the interviewer concluded. The dismissal carried finality. Kyle's shoulders slumped as he walked toward his aging Toyota. His BMW had already been repossessed the month before. That afternoon, Megan faced her own shock at Nordstrom. Her platinum card was declined for a simple mascara purchase. "There must be a mistake," she insisted to the sales associate. Her furious call to the credit card company revealed the truth. "Your co-signer has withdrawn his guarantee. The account is suspended until the balance is paid in full." Other shoppers looked on as Megan's embarrassment deepened. Reality had become clear. Alan had systematically removed every financial safety net they once relied on. When Kyle and Megan returned home, the electricity had been cut off. A notice from the utility company cited unpaid bills of over $200. Kyle's attempt to negotiate collapsed once his unemployment became known. Their first night by candlelight marked the beginning of a harsh new reality. In the dark living room, Megan paced furiously, heels striking the wooden floor, accusing Kyle of ruining their lives. His weak excuses blaming Alan only fueled her anger. "Fix this or I'm gone," she shouted. Kyle's desperate credit applications were all denied. His debt-to-income ratio was impossible without steady work. Megan's maxed-out cards added no relief. Bankruptcy entered their conversations for the first time as a genuine fear. A garage sale of luxury items produced humiliating returns. Wedding gifts worth hundreds sold for mere $20. Former friends drove past without stopping. Megan watched her jewelry go to strangers, while Kyle sold his golf clubs to a teenager. The repossession of the BMW in broad daylight became neighborhood entertainment. Kyle's humiliation deepened as he removed personal belongings, under the impatient watch of the repo man. Megan screamed at the driver while neighbors peeked from windows. That evening, I drove past their house, watching the chaos with a quiet sense of justice. This wasn't cruelty, it was consequence. Margaret had always taught that choices bring results. Kyle was finally learning that lesson. When Kyle called, begging for a meeting and insisting he had something important to say, I agreed. Morrison Park, the place I had taught him to ride his first bicycle 3 decades ago, became the meeting spot. After hanging up, I looked at a framed photo of young Kyle on his bike, remembering simpler times. Then I set the photo face down. 6 months later, the county courthouse steps hosted the foreclosure auction of 1247 Maple Avenue, Kyle and Megan's former dream home. I watched from across the street in my black sedan as the auctioneer read the property description with bureaucratic precision. Real estate investors and onlookers gathered. Kyle and Megan stood apart, Megan's tears catching the sunlight. Through binoculars, I observed their final humiliation. Opening bid, $280,000, the auctioneer announced. A woman in a navy business suit confidently raised her hand. Kyle whispered urgently to Megan, trying to identify her. The bidding climbed to $315,000, leaving only 2 participants, the woman and a local contractor. When Robert Chen arrived and nodded to the woman, Kyle's suspicion turned to shocked recognition. That's Dad's lawyer, he whispered, voice carrying across the hushed crowd. He wouldn't. He couldn't, Megan muttered in disbelief. Kyle's frantic attempt to approach her was stopped by courthouse security. The auction continued without pause. $317,000, the woman called. Going once, going twice? Sold. Kyle's legs gave out, and Megan's cry, "This is our home," echoed through the courthouse halls as the auctioneer's gavel ended it all. I stepped out of my car and walked toward the courthouse stairs. At that moment, Kyle finally grasped the full scope of the plan I had carried out over 6 months. The timing, the financial withdrawal, and the bid amount, calculated to match their mortgage exactly, were all executed with precision. The mysterious bidder turned out to be Sarah Mitchell, my trusted secretary, representing Mitchell Holdings LLC. Kyle stumbled toward me, his voice shaking. "How could you do this to us?" "I didn't do anything," I replied calmly. "The bank did." His pleas about Margaret's garden and her love for the home were met with a cold truth. "Margaret isn't here to see what you've become." Megan's final outburst came as a lunge, shouting accusations of elder abuse and incompetence. Robert Chen documented everything as security escorted her away. To me, the entire scene revealed their true character. 2 weeks later, a small moving truck carried away what remained of their life. Megan angrily shoved clothes into suitcases while Kyle carefully packed Margaret's crystal vase, the last connection to his mother. Neighbors watched silently but offered no support. Their social exile was complete. That night, Megan gave her ultimatum. "I can't live like this anymore." She admitted reconnecting with her ex-boyfriend and ended their marriage with the harsh words, "Your father was right about us." Kyle spent his last night in the empty house, walking through rooms filled with memories. In a kitchen drawer, he found a hidden note from Margaret. "Kyle, remember we love you." For the first time, genuine tears fell as he realized what he had truly lost. I later received the keys from Sarah Mitchell with quiet satisfaction. Renovating the house and donating it to a deserving family would honor Margaret's values. She would have approved of this justice. That evening, Kyle called from a payphone outside a cheap motel. His cell service had been cut. When his name appeared on my caller ID, I let it go to voicemail. The confrontation could wait. 3 months after losing the house, Kyle arrived at my door. He hesitated for a full minute before ringing the bell. When I finally opened, I didn't invite him inside. His appearance shocked me, unshaven, aged, thin, and defeated. "Dad, I know I made terrible mistakes," he began, explaining his new life in a small apartment above a laundromat, working at a gas station and Megan leaving him. He claimed he had learned his lesson about what truly mattered. Then he shifted, suggesting I was lonely and offering to be the son Mom had wanted. I tested him. "When is your mother's birthday?" He guessed wrong, her favorite flower. Again wrong, Margaret loved daisies, not roses. My realization was clear. He had never truly known her. Frustration crept back into his tone. Just tell me what you want me to say. Finally, he admitted he needed help. Eviction notices, financial struggles, desperate promises. He still saw me as a source of money. His final plea was through Margaret. She always believed in second chances. She'd want us to heal. For a brief moment, I wavered, but then remembered Margaret's fears. I retrieved her journal. In her words, "I'm worried Kyle only loves our money. What if he cannot truly love?" Kyle's silence confirmed the truth. I told him calmly, "Margaret died knowing who you really are. She changed her will before passing. She left you nothing." His mask dropped, replaced with anger and threats. His final words, "I hope you die alone in this house," revealed his nature fully. I closed the door and let him pound while I quietly made tea. 1 year later, I visited Margaret's grave with fresh daisies. The foundation in her name had awarded scholarships, donated to cancer research, and planned a community center. Her memory lived on. Kyle, meanwhile, worked at a gas station, divorced and isolated. I felt no joy in his suffering, only justice. Later, I saw him at a diner. Our eyes met. His voice carried humility for the first time. "I know sorry isn't enough," he said. "I understand now. It was never about the money. You wanted me to love you, not your wallet." His tears seemed genuine. I replied, "I did what I had to do." Margaret would have approved. "I deserved all of it," he admitted. When he asked if there was a way back, I answered honestly, "Maybe, but you'll have to prove it with actions." Not words. I shared about my new life, volunteering, new friendships, and dating Grace, a kind widow. I found real purpose. Margaret's memory lived on through every life touched by the foundation. Driving past Kyle's old house, I saw the Ramirez family had filled it with warmth and gratitude. Their children played in the same garden Margaret once loved. It was everything she had valued. That evening, standing in the garden, I felt peace. For the first time since her death, I slept soundly, dreaming of Margaret smiling and saying, "You did the right thing, Alan. I'm proud of you." Justice had been served. Love had required hard choices, but they were the right ones. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.